Chapter 10 of One Third Off. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Recorded by Brian Ness. One Third Off by Irvin S. Cobb. Chapter 10, wherein our hero falters. Next day I kept it up, varying the first day's menus slightly, but keeping the bulk consumption down, roughly, to about one-half or possibly one-third what my rations formerly had been. Before night of the second day that all-gone sensation had vanished. Already I had made the agreeable discovery that I could get along and be reasonably happy on from 35 to 50% of what until then I had deludedly thought was required to nourish me. Before the week ended, I felt fitter and sprier in every way than I had for years past. More alive, more interested in things, quicker on my feet, and brisker in my mental processes than in a long time. The chronic logy, foggy feeling in my head disappeared and failed to return. I may add that to date it still has not returned. Relieved of pressure against its valves, at least I assume that was what came to pass, my heart began functioning as I assume a normal heart should function, and at once the sense of oppression in the neighborhood of the heart was gone. Within the same week I took most joyful note of the fact that I was losing flesh in the vicinities where mainly I craved to lose it, amidships and at the throat. I still had a double chin in front, but the third one, which I carried behind as a spare, the one which ran all the way around my neck and lapped at the back like a clergyman's collar, was melting away. And unless I was woefully mistaken, I no longer had to fight so desperate a battle with the waistband of my trousers when I dressed in the mornings. I was not mistaken. Glory be, and likewise Selah! My first and second mezzanines were visibly shrinking. By these signs and portents was I stimulated to continue the campaign so auspiciously launched and so satisfactorily progressing. I shall not deny that in the second week I did some backsliding. The swing of the tour carried me into the South. It was the South in the splendor of the young springtime, when the cardinal bird sang his mating song. With brocading dandelions each pasture gloriously became even as the field of the cloth of gold, and lo! the beginning of the strawberry shortcake season overlapped the last of the smoked hog jowl and turnip greens period, and the voice of the turtle was heard in the land. Figuratively, I was swept off my feet when a noble example of Southern womanhood put before my famished eyes the following items, to wit: about half a bushel of newly picked turnip greens, rearing island-wise above a sloshing sea of pot liquor, and supporting upon their fronded crests the boiled but impressive countenance of a hickory-cured shote, the whole being garnished with pared-off poached eggs, like the topaz eyes of beauteous blonde virgins turned soulfully heavenward, and set off by flankings of small piping hot corn pones, made with meal and water and salt and shortening, as Providence intended a proper corn pone should be made. Then the years rolled away like a scroll, and once again was I back in the Kentucky foothills, a lean and lathy sprout of a kid, a limber 6-foot length of perpendicular appetite. And it was 12 o'clock for some people, but it was dinner time for me. My glad low gurgle of anticipatory joy smothered the small inner voice of caution, as I leaped, as it were, headlong into the bosky dell of young turnip greens. So, having set my feet on the downward path, I backslowed some more. For behold, what should come along then but an old-fashioned shortcake, fashioned of crisp biscuit dough, with more fresh strawberries bedded down between its multiple and mounting layers than you could buy at the Fritz Charlton for $190. Right then and there was when and where I lost all I had gained in a fortnight of stalwart self-disciplining. Rather, it was where I regained all I haply had lost. When, gorged and comatose, I staggered from that fair matron's depleted table, I should never have dared to trundle over a wooden culvert at faster than 4 miles an hour. Either I should have slowed down or waited until they could put in some reinforced concrete underpinnings. I was right back where I had started, and for the moment didn't care a darn either. Sin is glorious when you sin gloriously. But I rallied. I retrieved myself. However, I do not take all the credit to myself for this. Circumstances favored me. Shortly I quitted the land of temptation, where I had been born, and was back again up north, living on dining cars and in hotels, with nothing more seductive to resist than processed pastry and machine-made shortcakes and Thousand Islands dressing, which made the fight all the easier to win, especially as regards the last named. I sometimes wonder why, with 1,000 islands to choose from, the official salad mixer of the average hotel always picks the wrong one. I kept on. The thing proved magically easy of accomplishment. By the fit of my clothing, if by nothing else, I could have told that several of my more noticeable convexes were becoming plane surfaces, and gave promise in due season of becoming almost concave, some of 'em. But there was other and convincing testimony besides. I could tell it by my physical feelings, by my viewpoint, by my enhanced zest for work and for play. Purposely, for the first month, I refrained from weighing myself. When I did begin weighing at regular intervals, I found I was losing at a rate of between 2 and 3 pounds a week. Moreover, I had now proved to my own satisfaction that within sane, reasonable limitations I could resume eating most of the things which formerly I ate to excess, and which I had altogether eliminated from my menus during the initiatory stages of dieting. About the time I emerged from the novitiate class, I discerned yet one more gratifying fact. If I were in the woods, camping and fishing, or hunting, or tramping, or riding, or taking any fairly arduous form of exercise, I could eat pretty much anything and everything, no matter how fattening it might be. Work in the open air whetted my appetite, but the added exertion burned up the waste matter so that the surplus went into bodily strength instead of into fatty layers. Consumption was larger, but assimilation was perfect. For my daily life at home, where I am writing this, I have cut out these things: all the cereals, nearly all the white bread, all the hot bread, practically all pastries except very light pastries, white potatoes absolutely, rice to a large extent, sausages and fresh pork and nearly all the ham, cream in my coffee and on fruits, and a few of the starchier vegetables. Of butter and of cheese and of nuts I eat perhaps 1/3 the amount I used to eat, and of meats roughly 1/2 as much as before the dawn of reason came. Of everything except the items I just have enumerated I eat as freely as I please, and when a person begins to reckon up everything else among the edibles, flesh, fowl, fish, berries, fruits, vegetables, and the rest, he finds quite a sizable list. I shall not pretend that I do not pine often for sundry tabooed things. Take pies, now. If there is any person alive who likes his pie better than I do, he's the king of the pie-likers, that's all. And I am desolated at being compelled to bar out the rice. Not the gummy, glued-together, sticky, messy stuff which Northerners eat with milk and sugar on it, but real orthodox rice, such as only Southerners and Chinamen and East Indians know how to prepare, white and fluffy and washed free of all the lurking library paste, with every grain standing up separate and distinct like well-popped corn, and treated only with salt, pepper, and butter, or with salt, pepper, and gravy before being consumed. And as for white potatoes, well, it distresses me deeply to think that hereafter the Irish potato, except when I'm camping out, will be to me merely something to stopper the spout of a coal-oil can with, or to stab the office pen in on the clerk's desk in an American plan hotel. For I have ever cherished the Irish potato as one of nature's most succulent gifts to mankind. I like potatoes all styles and every style, French fried, lyonnaise, O'Brien, shoestring shape, pants button design, hashed brown, creamed, mashed, stewed, soufflé, if only I knew who blew 'em up, and most of all baked au naturel, in the union suit. And I miss them and shall keep on missing them, but no longer do I yearn for cream in my coffee, now that it is out of it and I am getting reconciled to dry toast for breakfast, where once upon a time only members of the justly famous Flap Jackson family seemed to satisfy. Of course I imbibe alcoholic stimulant when and where procurable. From the standpoint of one intent upon cutting a few running feet off the waistline measurements, this distinctly is wrong, as